EBITDA adjustments. EBITDA, or earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, is a proxy or approximation of the cash flow generating abilities of a business. And so when going out to sell a business or secure financing, it's typically talked about or spoken of in a multiple of EBITDA. That is a multiple, 4, 6, 8, 12, 15 times the EBITDA, or the cash flow generating capabilities of the business. And so when we're going out there and having these discussions, we want to characterize EBITDA as the most accurate portrayal of the cash flowing abilities of the business. And therefore, there's adjustments that need to be made when going out to the market. And in doing this, we create either, we'll hear an adjusted EBITDA, reconciled EBITDA, recasted EBITDA. But the idea being, let's show what the business looks like from a revenue and operating standpoint, scraping out non-recurring items as a most accurate portrayal of what the business will generate going forward. And so 3 categories to think of, among many others, for EBITDA adjustments are: first, non-recurring business items, a one-off lawsuit, a one-off expenditure for an advisor, a consultant, a reconfiguration of a certain component of the business, whether it's software manufacturing, could be hard asset or asset light. But the point being is looking historically, both at the current year or the trailing 12 months, as well as the historical 3, 5, 7 years, depending on the import to the particular transaction, right? You want to recast to say, what in a scraping out some of the non-recurring items would the cash flow generating power of the business have been in those years, in the current year, and of course giving the best indication of looking forward. So the second would be non-recurring items relative to personal items. And so if a business is owned by a family, if it's owned by a small investment group, owned by an entrepreneur, a handful of entrepreneurs, there are items that trickle through the business, and whether it's car payments, cell phones, courses and affiliations and club memberships, or whatever it might be. And some of them, they all tend to be quasi-business oriented, but it's important to look at the business and say, on a post-transaction basis, now let's assume that the business is sold to a large strategic company, right? Many of those expenses will not exist anymore. And even if it's sold to an investment firm, there's a lot of items that are not recurring in that sense. So A, you're scraping out the non-recurring business items. B, you're scraping out the non-recurring personal items. And then C, we call these reconciliation items, where they are recurring items. However, the size of these items will be calibrated differently. So what I mean by that is, if there's a business that makes $1 million in profit every year, and the owner of that business pays himself a salary of $600,000 or $500,000 a year, then on a post-transaction basis with a new owner, that owner may reasonably be paid $100,000 a year, $150,000 a year, $200,000 a year. But the point being, the incremental amount of that executive salary historically should be added back to EBITDA, because just because a higher payment or salary is being paid to the owner of a company or the executive of a business than would normally be the case does not mean it should have a detrimental impact on EBITDA. That's just one item. You can go through the roster of employees that may be related to the family, related to the entrepreneur, and see if any of those positions would be redundant post-transaction or recalibrated post-transaction. And you can say the same thing with operating expenses. Sometimes you see leases to buildings that are owned by the same people through different LLCs. However, some of those payments need to be reconciled as well. So the idea being that you maximize adjusted EBITDA. When you go out to the market to sell the business, to secure capital for the business, we want to maximize EBITDA in a rational and substantiated way, but in a way that optimally shows and most accurately shows the cash flowing, the pure fundamental cash flow generating power of the business. Appreciate everyone's time. Hope the week continues to go well. Keep pushing forward. God bless. We'll see everyone next time.